What is up, YouTube? It's Malorn here, and I am here with another great video for you guys today. We've got Magnus Chase, the Sword of Summer. We've got a nice messy pile of hair because I just woke up. It is 7:30 in the morning upon time of recording, and time of recording is usually like 30 minutes before the video itself is uploaded. I usually upload them immediately. Sometimes I don't, sometimes I do, but this time I will. Yeah, so we've got to make some progress in this book. We are halfway done, guys. Halfway done. We are halfway there. I believe that we can do this. I'm going to see. We'll try and get 10 chapters done today. It'll probably be 2 videos, but we're going to try and get 10 chapters done today. Alright. So the next 2 videos will probably be slightly longer than the rest. Alright, so let's go ahead and begin. Chapter 35, Thou shalt not poop on the head of art. After giving me the slightly shriveled apple of immortality, Sam left me at the docks. Not that she wanted to, she said, but her grandparents were going to murder her, and she didn't want to be any later for that. We made plans to meet next morning at the public garden. I made my way toward Copley Square. I felt a little self-conscious walking the streets with a glowing broadsword, so I had a conversation with my weapon. Because that wasn't crazy at all. Could you do a glamour and turn into something smaller? I asked it. Preferably not a chain, since it's no longer the 1990s. The sword didn't reply. Duh. But I imagined it was humming at a more interrogative pitch, like, such as what? I don't know. Something pocket-sized and innocuous. A pen, maybe? The sword pulsed, almost like it was laughing. I imagined it saying, "A pin sword? That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard." Percy Jackson reference there, by the way. You have a better idea? I asked it. The sword shrank in my hand, melting into a rune stone and a gold chain. The small white stone was emblazoned with a black symbol. Looks like an F. The rune of Freya, I said. Not really a jewelry guy, but okay. I fastened the chain around my neck. I discovered the stone was attached magnetically to its bale, so I could easily pull it off the chain. As soon as I did, the stone grew into a sword. If I wanted it back in pendant form, all I had to do was picture that. The sword shrank into a stone, and I could reattach it to the necklace. Cool, I admitted. Perhaps the sword really had heard my request. Perhaps I'd somehow created the glamour by myself. Or maybe I was hallucinating and wearing a huge sword around my neck. I doubted anyone would look twice at my new medallion. They'd see the F and assume it stood for failure. By the time I reached Copley Square, it was fully dark out. No sign of Blitz or Hearthstone, which made me apprehensive. The library had closed for the night. I wondered if Big Boy expected me to meet him on the roof, but I wasn't about to climb the walls of the library. It had been a long day. I know hardly super warrior strength or not, I was exhausted and shaking from hunger. If Big Boy wanted the apple, he would have to come and get it, otherwise I'd eat it myself. I sat on the front steps of the library, the stones swaying under me like I was still on Harold's ship. To either side of me, a bronze lady statue reclined on a marble throne. I remembered that one symbolized art and the other science, but to me they both looked ready for recess. They leaned on their armrests, metal shawls covering their heads, glancing in my direction like, tough week, huh? This was the first time I'd been alone and not in imminent danger since the funeral home? Did it count as being alone if you were staring at your own dead body? My memorial service had probably happened by now. I imagined my coffin being lowered into an icy grave, Uncle Randolph leaning on his cane, frowning resentfully. Uncle Frederick looking baffled and distressed in his mismatched clothes, and Annabeth? Couldn't imagine what she was feeling. She'd rushed to Boston to find me. She'd learned I was dead. Then she learned I wasn't dead, but she still had to attend my funeral and not tell anyone she'd seen me. I believed she would keep her promise, but our meeting had unsettled me. Some of the things she'd said, I can help you. I know a place where you'll be safe. I pulled the battered flyer from my coat pocket. Missing. Magnus Chase, 16 years old, please call. I studied Annabeth's phone number, committing it to memory. I owed her an explanation, but not yet. I'd already gotten Hearthstone knocked unconscious, Blitzen half petrified, and Sam kicked out of the Valkyries. I couldn't risk dragging anyone else into my problems. According to the Norns, Fenris Wolf would be unleashed 7 days from now unless I stopped it from happening. Ragnarok would begin. Surt would consume the 9 worlds in fire. I would never find my mom or get justice for her murder. Despite all that, every time I thought about facing a wolf, facing the wolf, Fenris himself, I wanted to curl up in my old sleeping bag, stick my fingers in my ears and hum, "La la la, it's not happening." A shadow swooped over my head. Big Boy, the eagle, landed on the bronze statue to my left and promptly decorated her head with eagle droppings. "Dude," I said, "you just pooped on art." "Did I?" Big Boy lifted his tail feathers. "Ah, well, I imagine she's used to it. I see you survived your fishing expedition." "Surprised?" I asked. "Yes, actually. Do you have my apple?" I pulled it from my pocket and tossed it over. Big Boy caught it in his left hand and began to eat. Ah, that's the stuff. I'd seen some strange things recently, but an eagle eating an apple atop the poopy head of art was definitely in the top 20. "So, will you tell me who you are now?" I asked. Big Boy burped. "I suppose you've earned it. I'll confess. I'm not really an eagle." "I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you." He snapped off another chunk of apple. "Also, I doubt you'll make many friends among the gods when they learn you've assisted me." "Wonderful," I said. "I'm already on Ran and Aegir's naughty list." "Oh, those two aren't properly gods. They are neither Aesir nor Vanir. I think they're more giantish, though of course the line between giant and god has always been blurred. Our clans have intermarried so many times over the years." "Our clans?" Meaning... The eagle grew, shadows folded around him, adding to his size like a snowball gathering mass. His shape resolved into a huge old man lounging in the lap of art. He wore iron-shod boots, leather breeches, and a tunic of eagle feathers that was probably not in compliance with the Endangered Species Act. His hair was gray, his face weathered with age. On one forearm he wore a gold bracer encrusted with bloodstones, the sort of armband worn by the Thanes in Valhalla. "You're a lord?" I asked. "A king, in fact." Big Boy took another bite of apple. Immediately his hair darkened and some of his wrinkles faded. "Utgard-Loki at your service." I curled my fingers around my sword pendant. "Loki as in Loki? Loki?" The giant king made a sour face. "You have no idea how many times I get that question. Are you the famous Loki?" He put famous in air quotes. "Ugh! It's named Loki before he ever came along. It's a popular name among giants." "At any rate, no, Magnus Chase, I am not related to the famous Loki. I am Utgard-Loki, meaning Loki of the Outlands, king of the mountain giants. I've been watching you for years." I get that a lot. "Well, you're much more interesting than those dense children of Thor who usually challenge me. You'll make a wonderful enemy." Pressure built in my ear canals. "We're enemies now?" "No, oh, there's no need to draw your sword just yet. Nice pendant, though. Someday we'll find ourselves on opposite sides. That can't be helped, but for the present, I'm happy to observe. I hope you'll learn to use the sword without getting yourself killed. That would be amusing. Surt the old bag of smoke deserves to be humiliated." "Well, I'm always happy to amuse you." The giant popped the rest of the apple in his mouth and swallowed it whole. He now looked about 25, with coal black hair, his handsome angular face free of wrinkles. "Speaking of Surt," he said, "the Fire Lord will never let you keep that sword. You have probably until morning before he realizes that you found it." My hand dropped from my pendant. My arms felt like wet sandbags. "I impaled Surt, cut off his nose, and dropped him in an icy river. That didn't even slow him down." "Oh, it did. Right now he's nothing but a seething, noseless ball of fire raging down in Muspelheim. He'll have to conserve all of his power to manifest again on the day of the full moon, when he tries to free the wolf." Maybe I shouldn't have been chatting about that with a self-declared enemy, but something told me Utgard-Loki already knew. The giant nodded. "Surt is more anxious than anyone for Ragnarok to start. He knows he'll get to consume the 9 worlds in flames, and that's what he's been waiting for since the dawn of time. Me? I like the way things are. I'm having fun, but fire giants? Oh, there's no reasoning with them. It's all burn, burn, burn. Anyway, the good news is that Surt won't be able to kill you personally until the full moon. He's much too weak. The bad news is he has a lot of minions. I hate minions. Surt's not the only one after you. Your former comrades from Valhalla have been searching. They're not pleased that you left without permission. I thought about Captain Ganilla and her bandolier of hammers. I imagined one spinning toward my face. Well, that's just perfect. If I were you, Magnus, I'd get out of Midgard by dawn. That should throw your pursuers off your trail, at least temporarily. Leave the earth. Simple as that. I knew you were a quick learner. Utgard-Loki slid off the statue's lap. Standing up, he was easily 20 feet tall. We'll meet again, Magnus Chase. Someday you'll need a favor only Utgard-Loki can grant. But for now, your friends would like a word. Farewell. Shadows funneled around him. Utgard-Loki was gone. In his place stood Blitzen and Hearthstone. Hearth leapt away from me like a startled cat. Blitzen dropped his duffel bag. Heimdall's horn, kid, where did you come from? I've been here for almost an hour. I was talking to a giant. Hearth crept toward me. He poked me in the chest to see if I was real. We have been here for hours, he signed, waiting for you. We talked to a giant. You just appeared. A sick feeling rose in my chest. Maybe we should compare notes. I told them what had happened since we parted ways. Harold's boat, Mr. J, and Bag Lady ran, which would make an awesome name for a rapper duo, and my conversation with Utgard-Loki. Not good. Blitzen stroked his beard. He dispensed with the anti-sun gear and was now wearing an eggplant purple three-piece suit with a mauve dress shirt and a green carnation in the lapel. The giant told us some of the same things, but the giant did not tell us his own name. Hearth signed, surprise, opening his pinched fingers on either side of his eyes, which in this context I took to mean, yikes! Utgard-Loki. He spelled out the name. Most powerful sorcerer of Jotunheim, and make any illusion. We were lucky, Blitz said. Utgard could have tricked us into seeing or doing anything. Could have made us walk off a roof, accidentally kill each other, or even eat steak tartar. In fact, Blitz narrowed his eyes. We could still be in an illusion. Any of us might be giants. Blitzen punched Hearthstone in the arm. Ouch! Hearth signed. He stepped on the dwarf's toes. Or maybe not, Blitzen decided. Still, this is very bad. Magnus, you've given an apple of immortality to a giant king. And what does that mean exactly? Blitz fiddled with his carnation. To be honest, I'm not sure. Never understood how those apples work. I imagine it'll make Utgard-Loki stronger as well as younger. And make no mistake, when Ragnarok comes, he won't be on our side. Hearthstone signed. Wish I'd known it was Utgard-Loki. Could have asked about magic. Blitz said. You know plenty. Besides, you can't trust a giant to give you straight answers. Right now, you two need sleep. Elves can't stay awake very long without sunlight, and Magnus looks like he's gonna fall over. Blitz was right. I was starting to see double Blitzens and double Hearthstones, and I didn't think I had anything to do with illusions. We made camp in the library doorway, just like old times, except with better supplies. Blitz pulled three down sleeping bags out of his duffel, along with a fresh change of clothes for me and some sandwiches, which I ate too fast to taste. Hearth collapsed in his bag and immediately began snoring. Rest, Blitz told me. I'll keep watch. Tomorrow we visit my kin. The dwarf world? My thoughts were getting fuzzy. Your home. My home. Blitz sounded uneasy. Some of the research Hearth and I did today, it's looking like we'll get more information about the rope that bound Fenris. We can only get that Nidavellir. He focused on the chain around my neck. Can I see it? The sword? I pulled off the pendant and set the sword between us, its light making Blitz's face glitter like a vein of copper in the dark. Breathtaking, he murmured. Bone steel, or something even more exotic. Bone steel. TJ and Valhalla mentioned that. Blitz didn't touch the blade, but he passed his hand over it reverently. To make steel, iron is smelted with carbon. Most swordsmiths use coal, but you can also use bones. The bones of enemies or monsters or ancestors. Oh. I stared at the blade, wondering if my great-great-grandparents might be in there somewhere. Forged correctly, Blitz said, bone steel can cut down supernatural creatures, even giants and gods. Of course, you have to quench the blade in blood to harden it, preferably the blood of whatever type of creature you want the sword to be most lethal against. The sandwiches weren't sitting so well on my stomach. This blade was made like that? I don't know, Blitz admitted. The sword of Freya is veneer work, which is a mystery to me. It might be closer to Hearth's elf magic. My spirits sank. I'd had this idea that dwarves were good with weapon crafting. In the back of my mind, I'd been hoping Blitzen could tell me something about the blade's secrets. I glanced at Hearth, still snoring peacefully. You said Hearth knew a lot about magic. I'm not criticizing, I've just never seen him cast any. Well, except maybe opening one door. What else can he do? Blitz set his hand protectively next to Hearth's feet. Magic drains him. He's careful about using it. Also his family. Took a deep breath. Modern elves don't approve of magic. His parents shamed Hearthstone pretty badly. It still makes him self-conscious about casting magic in front of others. Hearthstone wasn't the son his parents wanted between the magic and the, Blitz tapped his own earlobes. I felt like saying something rude about Hearthstone's parents in sign language. It's not his fault he's deaf. Elves, Blitz shrugged. They have a low tolerance for anything that isn't perfect. Music, art, appearances, their own children. Wanted to protest how messed up that was, then I thought about humans, and I decided we weren't much better. Get some sleep, kid, Blitz urged. Big day tomorrow. To keep Fenris wolf bound, we're going to need help from a certain dwarf, and that help isn't going to come cheap. We'll need you at full strength when we jump to Nidavellir. Jump, I said. What do you mean, jump? He gave me a worried look, as if I might be getting another funeral very soon. In the morning, you're going to try climbing the world tree. Chapter 36. Duck! Call me crazy. I was expecting the world tree to be a tree, not a row of bronze ducks. Behold, Blitzen said, the nexus of the universe. Hearthstone knelt reverently. I glanced at Sam, who had joined us after a daring escape from first period physics. She wasn't laughing. So, I said, I'm just gonna point out that this is the make way for ducklings statue. Do you think it's a coincidence? Blitzen demanded. 9 worlds, 9 ducks. The symbolism screams portal. This spot is the crux of creation, the center of the tree, the easiest place to jump from one world, to another. If you say so. I'd passed these bronze ducks 1,000 times. Never considered them much of a nexus. Hadn't read the children's book they were based on, but I gathered it was about a mama duck and her babies crossing a street in Boston, so they put a sculpture of it in the public garden. In the summer, little kids would sit on Miss Mallard and get their pictures taken. At Christmas, the ducks got little Santa hats. At the moment, they were naked and alone, buried up to their necks in fresh snowfall. Hearthstone passed his hands over the statues like he was testing a stovetop for heat. He glanced at Blitz and shook his head. As I feared, Blitz said. Hearth and I have been traveling too much. We won't be able to activate the ducks. Magnus, we'll need you. I waited for an explanation, but Blitz just studied the sculptures. He was testing out a new hat this morning, a pith helmet with dark netting that draped to his shoulders. According to Blitz, the net fabric was his own design. It blocked 98% of the sunlight, allowing us to see his face while not covering up his fashionable outfit. It made him look like a beekeeper in the morning. Okay, I'll bite, I said. How do I activate ducks? Sam scanned our surroundings. She didn't look like she'd slept much. Her eyes were puffy. Her hands were raw and blistered from our fishing expedition. She'd changed into a black wool trench coat, but otherwise she was dressed the same as yesterday. Green hijab, axe, shield, jeans, winter boots, all the accoutrements of a fashionable ex-Valkyrie. However you do it, she said, do it quickly. I don't like how close we are to the gates of Valhalla. But I don't know how, I protested. Don't you guys go world jumping all the time? Hearth signed, too much. Kid, Blitz said, the more frequently you travel between the worlds, the harder it gets. It's kind of like overheating an engine. At some point, you have to stop and let the engine cool down. Besides, jumping randomly from one world to another is one thing. Traveling on a quest, that's different. We can't be sure where exactly we need to go. I turned to Sam. What about you? When I was a Valkyrie, it would have been no problem, but now? She shook her head. You're a child of Freya. Your father is the god of growth and fertility. You should be able to coax Draziel's branches close enough to let us jump on. Besides, it's your quest. You have the best chance of navigating. Just use the sculpture as a point of focus. Find us the quickest path. She would have had better luck explaining calculus to me. I felt stupid, but I knelt next to the sculpture. I touched the duckling at the end of the line. Cold crept up my arm. I sensed ice, fog, and darkness, somewhere harsh and unwelcoming. This, I decided, is the quickest way to Niflheim. Excellent, Blitz said. Let's not go there. I was just reaching for the next duck when someone yelled, Magnus Chase! 200 yards away on the opposite side of Charles Street, Captain Gunilla stood flanked by 2 other Valkyries. Behind them was a line of Einarhar. I couldn't make out their expressions, but the gray looming mass of X, the half-troll, was unmistakable. Captain Gunilla had drafted my own hallmates to fight against me. My fingers twitched with anger. I wanted to get a meat hook and go fishing with Gunilla as bait. I reached for my pendant. Magnus, no, Sam said. Concentrate on the ducks. We have to change worlds now. On either side of Gunilla, the Valkyries slung glowing spears from their backs. They yelled at the Einarhar to ready their weapons. Gunilla pulled 2 of her hammers and threw them in our direction. Sam deflected one with her shield. She knocked the other aside with her axe, spinning the hammer into the nearest willow tree where it embedded itself up to the handle. Across the street, all 3 Valkyries rose into the air. I can't fight them all, Sam warned. It's leave now or be captured. My anger turned to panic. I looked at the row of bronze ducks, but my concentration was shattered. I need more time. We don't have time. Sam deflected another hammer. The force of the blow cracked her shield down the middle. Hearth. Let's nudge the Elzar. Now would be good. A frown tugged at the corners of Hearthstone's mouth. He reached into his pouch and pulled out a runestone. He kept it in his hands and muttered to it silently, as if speaking to a captured bird. He threw the stone into the air. It exploded above us, creating a rune of burning golden light. Between Gunilla's hunting party and us, distance seemed to elongate. The Valkyries flew toward us at top speed. My Einarhar comrades drew their weapons and charged, but they made no progress. It reminded me of those cheap 1970s cartoons where a character runs, but the scenery behind them just keeps repeating itself. Charles Street spiraled around our pursuers like a giant hamster wheel. For the first time, I got what Sam had told me about runes being able to change reality. Ride-ho, Blitzen said appreciatively. It stands for the wheel, the journey. Hearthstone has bought you some time. Only seconds, Hearth signed. Hurry. He promptly collapsed into Sam's arms. I ran my hands quickly across the bronze ducks. At the 4th one, I stopped. I felt warmth, safety, and a sense of rightness. This one, I said. We'll open it, Blitz shouted. I rose to my feet. Not sure what I was doing, I pulled my pendant from its chain. The sword of summer appeared in my hands. Its blade purred like a demented cat. I tapped it against the bronze ducks and sliced upward. The air parted like a curtain, stretching in front of me instead of a sidewalk. And stretching in front of me instead of a sidewalk was an expanse of tree branches. The nearest one, as wide as Beacon Street, ran directly under us, maybe 3 feet down, suspended over a gray void. Unfortunately, the cut I'd made in the fabric of Midgard was already closing. Hurry, I said, jump! Blitzen didn't hesitate. He leapt through the rift. Over on Charles Street, Gunilla screamed in outrage. She and her Valkyries were still flying full tilt on their cartoon hamster wheel, the Einarhar stumbling along behind them. You are doomed, Magnus Chase, Gunilla shouted. We will pursue you to the ends of... With a loud pop, Hearth's spell broke. The Einarhar fell face first in the street. The 3 Valkyries shot over our heads. Judging from the sound of breaking glass, they must have hit a building over on Arlington Street. I didn't wait for my old hallmates to recover their senses. I grabbed Hearth's left arm while Sam took his right. Together, we leapt into the world tree. Chapter 37. I am trash-talked by a squirrel. I always liked climbing trees. My mom had been pretty understanding about that. She'd only get nervous if I got above 20 feet. Then a little tension crept into her voice. Pumpkin, that branch may not hold you. Could you come down a little? On the world tree, every branch would hold me. The biggest ones were wider than Interstate 93. The smallest were as large as your average redwood. As for Draziel's trunk, it was so immense it just didn't compute. Each crevice in its surface seemed to lead to a different world, as if something had wrapped tree bark around a column of television monitors, glowing with a million different movies. The wind roared, ripping at my new denim jacket. Beyond the tree's canopy I saw nothing but a hazy white glow. Below was no ground, just more branches crisscrossing the void. The tree had to be rooted somewhere, but I felt woozy and unbalanced, as if Draziel and everything it contained, including my world, was free-floating in the primordial mist. The Ginning Gap. If I fell here, in the best case scenario, I'd hit another branch and break my neck. Worst case scenario, I'd keep falling forever into the great white nothingness. I must have been leaning forward because Blitzen grabbed my arm. Careful, kid. First time in the tree will make you dizzy. Yeah, I noticed. Hearthstone still sagged between Sam and me. He tried to find his footing, but his ankles kept bending in odd directions. Sam stumbled. Her broken shield slipped from her grip and somersaulted into the abyss. She crouched, a look of barely controlled panic in her eyes. I liked Draziel a lot better when I could fly. What about Ganilla and the others? I asked. Will they be able to follow us? Not easily, Sam said. They can open another portal, but it won't necessarily lead to the same branch of the tree. Still, we should keep moving. Being on Draziel is not good for your sanity. Hearthstone managed to stand on his own. He signed, I'm okay, let's go. Though his hands were so shaky it looked more like, you are a rabbit tunnel. We moved farther along the branch. The sword of summer hummed in my hand, tugging me along like it knew where we were going. I hoped it did, anyway. Hostile winds buffeted us from side to side. Branches swayed through, throwing deep pools of shadow and brilliant patches of light across our path. A leaf the size of a canoe fluttered by. Stay focused, Blitzen told me. That feeling you had when you opened the portal, look for it again. Find us an exit. After walking about a quarter of a mile, we found a smaller branch crossing directly under ours. My sword hummed louder, tugging to the right. I looked at my friends. I think we need to take this exit. Changing branches might sound easy, but it involved sliding down 10 feet from one curved surface to another, with the wind howling and the branches swaying apart. Amazingly, we managed it without anyone getting crushed or falling into oblivion. Navigating the narrower branch was worse. It bobbed more violently under our feet. At one point, I got flattened by a leaf, like a green tarp dropping on top of me out of nowhere. At another point, I looked down and realized I was standing over a crack in the bark. Half a mile down, inside the branch, I could see a snow-capped mountain range as if I were standing in a glass-bottom airplane. We picked our way through a maze of lichen patches that looked like hills of burned marshmallows. I made the mistake of touching one. My hand sunk up to my wrist and I almost couldn't pull it free. Finally, the lichen dispersed into smaller clumps like burned marshmallow sofas. We followed our branch until it split into a half a dozen unclimbable twigs. The sword of summer seemed to go to sleep in my hand. Well? Sam asked. I peered over the side. About 30 feet below us, a larger branch swayed. In the middle of the branch, a hot tub-sized knothole glowed with soft, warm light. That's it, I said. That's our way out. Blitzen scowled. You sure? Nidavellir isn't warm and glowy. I'm just telling you, the sword seems to think that's our destination. Sam whistled silently. Quite a jump. If we miss the hole, Hearthstone spelled out, splat. A gust of wind hit us and Hearth stumbled. Before I could catch him, he fell backward into a clump of lichen. His legs were promptly swallowed in the marshmallow gunk. Hearth! Blitzen scrambled to his side. He pulled at Hearth's arm, but the mucky lichen held onto his legs like a needy toddler. We can cut him out, said Sam. Your sword, my axe. It'll take time. We'll have to be careful of his legs, but it could be worse. Naturally, things got worse. From somewhere above us came an explosive yark. Blitzen crouched under his pith helmet. Ratatosk, that damnable squirrel, always appears at the worst time. Hurry with those blades! Sam cut into the lichen with her axe, but her blade stuck. This is like cutting through melting tires. It's not going to be quick. Go! Hearth signed. Leave me. Not an option, I said. Yarr! The sound was much louder this time. A dozen branches above us, a large shadow passed across the leaves. I hefted my sword. We'll fight the squirrel. We can do that, right? Sam looked at me like I was mad. Ratatosk is invulnerable. There is no fighting him. Our options are running, hiding, or dying. We can't run, I said, and I've already died twice this week. So we hide. Sam unwrapped her hijab. At least Hearth and I do. I can cover 2 people, no more. You and Blitz run. Find the dwarves. We'll meet up with you later. What? I wondered if Utgard-Loki was messing with her brain somehow. Sam, you can't hide under a green piece of silk. The squirrel can't be that stupid. She shook out the fabric. It grew to the size of a twin sheet, the colors rippling until the hijab was exactly the same brown and yellow and white as of the lichen patch. She's right, Hearth signed. Go. Sam crouched next to him and pulled the hijab over them both, and they vanished, blending perfectly against the lichen. Magnus, Blitz tugged at my arm. It's now or never. He pointed to the branch below. The knot hole was closing. At that moment, Ratatosk broke through foliage above. If you can imagine a Sherman tank covered in red fur, barreling down the side of a tree, well, the squirrel was way scarier than that. His front teeth were twin wedges of white enamel tear. His claws were scimitars. His eyes were sulfur yellow, burning with fury. Yarr! The squirrel's battle cry pierced my eardrums. 1,000 insults were packed into that one sound, all of them invading my brain, drowning out any rational thought. You have failed. No one likes you. You are dead. Your dwarf's pith helmet is stupid. You could not save your mother. I fell to my knees. A sob built in my chest. I probably would have died then and there if Blitz hadn't hauled me up with all of his dwarven strength and slapped me across the face. I couldn't hear him, but I read his lips well enough. Now, kid! Gripping my hand in rough, calloused fingers, he jumped off the branch, dragging me with him into the wind. Chapter 38. I break down in a Volkswagen. I stood in a sunlit meadow with no memory of how I got there. In the distance, wildflowers dusted rolling green hills. The breeze smelled of lavender, and the light was warm and rich, as if the air had turned to butter. My thoughts moved sluggishly. Light. Sunlight was bad for dwarves. I was pretty sure I'd been traveling with a dwarf. Someone had slapped me and saved my life. Blitz? He stood to my left, holding his pith helmet at his side. Blitz, your hat! I was afraid he'd already become stone. Then he turned. His eyes were stormy and distant. It's okay, kid. This isn't regular sunlight. We're not on Midgard anymore. It sounded like he was talking through waxed paper. The squirrel's yap had left a crackling in my ears and some corrosive thoughts rattling around in my brain. Ratatosk. Couldn't finish the sentence. Just saying his name made me want to curl up in the fetal position. Yeah, Blitz said. His bark is literally worse than his bite. Blitz looked down, blinking rapidly. He's the most destructive creature in the World Tree. He spends his time running up and down the trunk, carrying insults from the eagle who lives at the top to Nidhogg, the dragon who lives at the roots. I gazed toward the hills. Faint sounds of music seemed to be coming from that direction, or maybe it was the static in my ears. Why would a squirrel do that? To damage the tree, Blitz said. Ratatosk keeps the eagle and the dragon whipped into a frenzy. He tells them lies, rumors, nasty gossip about each other. His words can... well, you know what his words can do. The dragon Nidhogg is always chewing on the roots of the World Tree, trying to kill it. The eagle flaps his wings and creates windstorms that rip the branches and cause devastation throughout the 9 worlds. Ratatosk makes sure the 2 monsters stay angry and in competition with each other to see which one can destroy their end of Drazil faster. But that's crazy. The squirrel lives in the tree. Blitz grimaced. We all do, kid. People have destructive impulses. Some of us want to see the world in ruins just for the fun of it, even if we're ruined along with it. Ratatosk's chatter echoed in my head. You have failed. You could not save your mother. The squirrel had driven me to despair, but I could see how his bark might stir up other emotions. Hatred, bitterness, and self-loathing. How did you keep your wits? I asked Blitz. When the squirrel barked, what did you hear? Blitz ran his fingers across the brim of his pith helmet, pinching the edge of the black veil. Nothing I don't tell myself all of the time, kid. We should get going. He trudged off towards the hills. Despite his short stride, I had to power walk to keep up. We crossed the stream where a picturesque little frog sat on a lily pad. Doves and falcons spiraled through the air like they were playing tag. I half expected a chorus line of fuzzy animals to pop out of the wildflowers and launch into a Disney musical number. I'm guessing this is not Nidavellir, I said as we climbed the hill. Blitzen snorted. No. Much worse. Alfheim? Worse. Blitzen stopped just short of the crevice and took a deep breath. Come on, let's get this over with. At the top of the hill I froze. Whoa. Down the other side, green fields stretched to the horizon. Meadows were strewn with picnic blankets. Crowds of people were hanging out, eating, laughing, chatting, and playing music, flying kites, and tossing beach balls. It was the world's largest, most laid-back outdoor concert, minus the concert. Some folks were dressed in various bits of armor. Most had weapons, but they didn't seem very interested in using them. In the shade of an oak tree, a couple of young ladies were sword fighting, but after crossing blades a few times, they got bored, dropped their weapons, and started chatting. Another guy lounged in a lawn chair, flirting with the girl on his left while he casually parried attacks from the guy standing on his right. Blitz pointed to the crest of the next hill about a half a mile away, where a strange palace gleamed. It looked like an upside-down Noah's Ark made of gold and silver. Sesrumnir, said Blitzen, the hall of many seats. If we're lucky, maybe she won't be home. Who? Instead of answering, he waded into the crowd. We hadn't gone 20 feet before a guy on a nearby picnic blanket called, Hey, Blitzen, what's up, dude? Blitzen ground his teeth so hard I could hear them popping. Hello, Miles. Yeah, I'm good. Miles raised his sword absently as another guy in beach trunks and a muscle shirt charged toward him with a battle axe. The attacker screamed, Die! Haha, just kidding. Then he walked away eating a chocolate bar. Wow. Oh, tired. Sorry. So Blitz, Miles said. What brings you to Casa de Awesome? Nice seeing you, Miles. Blitzen grabbed my arm and led me onward. Okay, cool. Miles called after us. Keep in touch. Who was that? I asked. Nobody. How do you know him? I don't. So we made our way toward the upside-down Ark Mansion. More people stopped and said hello to Blitzen. A few greeted me and complimented me on my sword, or my hair, or my shoes. One girl said, Oh, nice ears, which didn't even make sense. Everybody is so stupid, Blitzen offered. I was gonna say mellow. He grunted, This is Folkvanger, the field of the army, or you could translate it as the people's battlefield. So this is Volkswagen. I scanned the crowds, wondering if I would spot my mother, but I couldn't imagine her in a place like this. There was too much lounging around and not enough action. My mom would have rousted these warriors to their feet, led them on a 10-mile hike, then insisted they set up their own campsites if they wanted any dinner. They don't seem like much of an army. Yeah, well, Blitz had said, these fallen are just as powerful as the Einarhar, but they have a different attitude. This realm is one little subsection of Vanaheim, sort of the Vanir god's flip-side version of Valhalla. Tried to picture myself spending eternity here. Valhalla had its good points, but as far as I'd seen it, didn't have any picnics or beach balls, and I definitely wouldn't describe it as mellow. Still, I wasn't sure I liked Volkswagen any better. So, half the worthy dead go here, I remembered. Half go to Valhalla. How do they pick who goes where? Is it a coin toss? That would make much more sense, actually. But I was trying to get to Nidavellir. Why did we come here? Blitzen stared at the mansion atop the hill. You were looking for the path we needed for our quest. That path led us through Volkswagen. Unfortunately, I think I know why. Let's go pay our respects before I lose my nerve. As we approached the gates, I realized Sesrumnir wasn't just built to look like an upside-down ship. It actually was an upside-down ship. The rows of tall windows were ore slots. The sloping walls of the whole were made from clinkered gold planks riveted with silver nails. The main entrance had a long awning that would have served as a gangplank. Why is it a boat? I asked. What? Blitzen fiddled nervously with his carnation. Not so unusual. Your Norse ancestors made lots of buildings by turning their ships upside down. In the case of Sesrumnir, when the day of doom comes around, they'll just flip the palace over and voila! It's a vessel big enough for all the warriors of Volkswagen to sail nobly to their deaths. Sort of like we're doing now. He led me inside. I'd been expecting a gloomy interior, like the hold of a ship, but the hull of many seats was more like a cathedral. The ceiling rose all the way to the keel. The oar-hole windows cross-hatched the air with bars of light. The entire space was open. No separate window or no separate rooms or partitions, just clusters of sofas, comfy chairs, throw pillows, and freestanding hammocks, most of which were occupied by snoring warriors. I hope the 500,000 inhabitants of Volkswagen liked one another's company, because there was no privacy. Me being me, the main thing I wondered was whether they all went to the bathroom. Where they all went to the bathroom. Down the corner of the hull ran an aisle of Persian carpets, flanked by braziers with glowing spheres of gold light. At the far end stood a throne on a raised day. Sorry about that. Blitz marched in that direction, ignoring the warriors who greeted him with "Dude" and "Sup, Dorfman" and "Welcome home." Welcome home. In front of the day a cozy fire crackled in the hearth. Sorry about that. Piles of jewelry and precious gems glittered here and there as if somebody had swept them up just to get them off the floor. On the other side of the steps lounged a calico house cat the size of a saber-toothed tiger. The throne was carved from wood as soft and buttery as the light linden wood, maybe. The back was draped with a cloak of downy feathers like on the underside of a falcon. In the throne itself sat the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. She looked maybe 20 years old, surrounded by an aura of golden radiance that made me realize what Blitzen meant earlier when he'd said the daylight here wasn't normal. The entire realm of Volkswagen was warm and bright, not because of the sun, but because it basked in this woman's power. Her blonde hair fell across her shoulder in a single long plait. Her white halter top showed off her tan shoulders and smooth midriff. Her knee-length skirt was belted with a gold braid holding a sheathed knife and a ring of keys. Oh my. Cannot talk. There we go. Sorry about that. Around her neck was a dazzling piece of jewelry, a lacework collar of gold and gems, like Rand's net in miniature, except with rubies and diamonds instead of sailors' souls and hubcaps. The woman fixed me with her sky blue eyes. When she smiled, heat traveled down from the tip of my ears right down to my toes. Would have done anything to make her keep smiling at me. If she told me to jump off the world tree into oblivion, I would have done it in a second. I remembered her picture from my old children's mythology book and realized how ridiculously it undersold her beauty. The goddess of love was very pretty. She had cats. I knelt before my aunt, the twin sister of my father, Freya. "My dear Magnus," she said, "how nice to meet you in person." She turned to Blitzen, who was glowering at his boots. "And how are you, Blitzen?" asked the goddess. Blitzen sighed. "I'm fine, Mom." Alright. That's chapter... What was that? Chapter 30... 30-something? Uno momento. Uno momento. We are having slight brain problems at the moment. Slight brain problems. Alright, chapter 35 to 38. Chapter 35, 36, 37, and 38. Guys, we read 4 chapters today. And... I'm tired. Oh, crap. Oh, my. Sorry about that, guys. My brain was just... And it was shutting down at the end of that. I really need some caffeine. I'm going to go make some coffee now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave a like, be sure to comment, and be sure to subscribe for more amazing audiobook content. And if you watch gameplays, I have a lot of those. If you watch vlogs, I have some of those. I don't do those very often, but I do on occasion. I've got a lot of drink reviews as well. Just a heads up, if you ever plan on making audiobooks, don't do recordings at 8 in the morning, or 7 in the morning, or 6 in the morning. Do not do them in the morning. Apparently it is a very bad idea. But, hey. It couldn't have been that bad, could it? I know that I did have trouble reading a lot of those words, which was kind of depressing, because I've never had trouble reading words. Well, not very often, at least. Alright. That was nice. Oh my. Alright guys, have a nice day.